Sana Waminku, meaning may God accept from us and you our fast indeed. Eid Mubarak to our Muslim brothers and sisters and the entire Muslim community. Welcome to this edition of the program. In focus tonight is the annual concern surrounding plans and preparations towards the Hajj by Ghanaians. The Hajj is the fifth pillar of the fundamental Muslim practices and institution. Don't forget, the Hajj takes off from June 26 thereabouts to July 1, 2023 this year. And that's not all. We'll also focus on Zongos in Ghana and how various variables, including space, ethnicity, class, citizenship, migration, and environmental processes intersect to form and sustain Zongos in Ghana. Plus also the poor state of these communities and efforts to bridge the development gap. We attempt to tap the Zongo resource for development, among others, with the Presidential Coordinator, Zongo and Inner City Development Secretariat. He's also the chairman of the Ghana Hajj Board, Alhaji Ben Abdallah Banda. This is The Probe. We are live on the Joy News channel. We are on Joy 99.7 FM, on myjoyonline.com, our YouTube channels, on all other social media platforms. As always, your thoughts and views are welcome. But since we are speaking about Zongos this evening, also about Hajj, let's take a few data on what we know so far. Many of you have been calling it Zongo, but it emanates from the Hausa word Zango, which means a temporary settlement, a temporary sojourn, or just a traveler stopover. But it looks like it's become more than just a stopover for many. So going on, we'll take a look at the Zongo and Inner City Development Secretariat in itself, because we have the coordinator with us this evening. It is primarily tasked with the implementation of critical interventions to ameliorate the challenges of the Zongo and Inner City communities. So we'll delve deeper into it this evening once he joins us. We'll also take a look at the development fund, because we know that there's a fund also that's been set up to take care of education, entrepreneurship, health, amongst others, sports development and tourism promotion. We'll take a look at that as well. And then also going on, I'll look at the budgetary funding shortly. But before the budgetary funding, we'll take a look at so we've been talking about these interventions already, and we know that the Zongo Development Fund is established by the Zongo Development Fund Act 2017, which is Act 964, to address the historical neglect of Zongo and Inner City communities in Ghana. And then the budgetary funding for it, this is what it looks like over the period. So 2018, it was 107 million Ghana cedis. 2020, we've had 100 million. Then in 2021, a drastic drop to 83 million. Then we've seen in 2022 154. Then in 2023, this is what it's looking at, 26 million. I'm sure we'll get some explanation as to this particular undulating curve that we have when it comes to budgetary allocation to the Zongo Development Fund. How do we bridge the gap if indeed we are looking forward to doing that for the Zongo development communities? So 2019, also, since we'll be talking about Hajj, this is the quota that we've seen. 2019, we had 6,000. 2022, 3,069. Then in 2023, 6,000. All these and more will get our attention tonight here on The Probe. I am Emefa Apau. When we return from the break, we'll get talking. This is The Probe. Once again, you're welcome.
Crystal clear and thrilling podcast and live shows, download and listen to us on Apple, Spotify, TuneIn, Google Podcasts, MyJoy Online, Amazon services like Echo, Amazon Music, and Audible, Stitcher, Adom Online, Overcast, and Pandora. Take note of everything. Sign up for the multimedia digital platforms now to stay updated.
We've had Newsfile over the weekend, and an interesting part of the conversation focused.
Oh no, we are out of range.
Oh, don't worry, Daddy. I have Alexa in my bag.
Alex, what?
Alexa, open Multimedia Ghana and play Joy FM.
Super Hits Radio, Joy 99.7.
Listen to Joy FM, Hits FM, Love FM, live on your Amazon Echo. Listen to your favorite multimedia radio stations live on your Amazon Echo device by saying, Alexa, open Multimedia Ghana, play Joy FM or Hits FM or Love FM. Or catch up on your favorite podcast by saying, Alexa, play, and then the name of your favorite podcast from Multimedia Ghana. For a list of all podcasts available, say Alexa. Ask Multimedia Ghana to browse programs.
On air. And we are back like we never lost signal.
Alexa, welcome to Multimedia.
Welcome back. This is The Probe, and tonight we are focusing on Islam, we are focusing on Zangos, we are focusing on Hajj, and the coordinator at the Office of the President in charge of Zango and Inner City Development. It's my guest tonight here on The Probe, Alhaji Ben Abdallah Banda. Once again, you're welcome to tonight's edition of The Probe.
Thank you very much, Emefa.
Okay.
I'm most grateful.
We're grateful for your time here on The Probe tonight. So let me first find out, we are in the spirit of, celebrating Eid al-Fitr, Eid Mubarak once again to you. Let's talk about the season. How has it been, you'd say?
Thank you very much. Let me see this opportunity to wish all Muslims Eid Mubarak, starting from the President, though he's not Muslim, but he was with us during the celebration of the Eid al-Fitr. His Excellency the Vice President, our chiefs within Zangos, our imams, and each and everyone that fasted or didn't fast though a Muslim, and then celebrated the Eid al-Fitr with us. I wish all of them, the celebration went on well. We started, about a month ago. I believe that in this particular month of Ramadan, we did 29 days, but some others may have done 30 days. Some celebrated their Eid al-Fitr on Friday. Majority of them celebrated their Eid al-Fitr on Friday, but the National Chief Imam and some of us did celebrate ours only yesterday. So we've brought the fasting to an end, and then we have also brought the celebration of the Eid al-Fitr almost to an end. But I know some people are still in the process of celebrating, more especially so when Monday is a holiday.
Yeah. Well, we look forward to that. We are all in the spirit of celebration. But we are focusing tonight on some key concerns that we have, especially in the Zango community. And once we're done with this first batch of celebrations, we are looking forward to embark on the pilgrimage, which is Hajj. So we'll take a look at these and then also bringing our audience questions, a number of them. But I know that you've been in this outfit for close to, let's say, about 2 years or so. And you've been visiting all the Zango communities in all 16 regions. Let's talk about a general overview of the state of these Zango communities in this country. What would you say would be your description of what you've seen so far?
The general overview of the Zango communities, cutting across all the sectors of our country, is that Zango is a community characterized since from the colonial era through independence, and I think until 2016 to 2017, when the Zango Development Fund was brought into being by high levels of illiteracy, poverty, unemployment, sanitation issues, slums, and some levels of violence. This is how I would describe our Zango communities right from the pre-colonial era to colonial era, right into independence and even beyond independence. And this has come about as a result of whether deliberate or unintentional neglect by the colonial authorities themselves and after independence by successive governments. Until 2016, prior to the 2016 elections, the NPP government saw this as problematic and promised the people of Zango, and for that matter, the people of this country, that when it was voted into power, it was going to create a special purpose vehicle, which is the Zango Development Fund, to take care of the political, to some extent, economic, social, and civil issues of the people living in Zangos. And then before that, before the creation of the Zango Development Fund, a Zango Development Ministry was brought into being. That is the Zango Development, Zango and Inner City Development Ministry, which was at the end of our first term restructured into the Zango Development Secretariat, of which I'm now the presidential coordinator of SAME. So from 2017 till 2020, the Zango Development Fund and the Zango Development Secretariat carried out massive infrastructural development. I think pretty soon we'll go into the nitty-gritties of what the Zango Development Fund and the Zango District then did. And when I took over as a presidential coordinator, there have been a number of interventions that we have also carried out and that we continue to carry out.
Okay.
So I would say without question that from 2017 till now, there has been a shift or a departure from the Zango that we used to know at first and the Zango that we know now.
So what you say is there's been an improvement over the period. Well, you've talked about your manifesto, your pledges when it comes to the Zongo community. We've heard at least some that were made, some campaign promises that were made at least on the campaign platform or during the campaign trail. The issue about transforming a Nima, for instance, and other Zongos into, a modern city, so to speak. That is yet to materialize. That's correct, isn't it?
That's exactly so. That is yet material. But Rome was not built in a day, but we need to put certain structures in place. For instance, how do we ensure that the majority of the Zongo youths are educated, from lack of education, based on environment, poverty, and other related issues. So if you don't tackle the root cause of the problem within Zango, and you decide to tackle other areas which are of importance though, but are not do not found the priority in it, then you'll be missing the point. So I think that our practical area that we taught or we still think that we should tackle is education and also skill development. We also have to look at the issue of sanitation. We also have to look at the issue of infrastructure development. We have to look at the issue of sanitation, the issue of health facility development. So it is after we've done all this that probably what we are talking about, we will then begin to look at that issue and see how we can develop Zango into maybe a different environment altogether. But in the meantime, this has been our focus since the creation of the Zango Development Fund and the Zango Development Ministry, which has now been restructured into the Zango Development Secretariat.
I'm sure this Zango transformation will come up again when we get into the audience questions. But let's tackle the issues about crime rates in our Zango communities. Really, I'm sure this is of concern to your secretariat. What exactly are we doing to tackle this situation?
Okay, so I will not agree to the assertion that crime is everywhere within Zangos. But I will admit to the fact that there have been some pockets of violence, which is also crime within Zangos. For instance, you can talk about the incidents at Asawasi, the incident at Ijura, the incidents at Mamubi, and so on. But as we are talking now, there hasn't been any specific data as to the rates of crime within Zangos. Be that as it may, we know that poverty and to some extent illiteracy, unemployment can give rise to the rise in crime. So what we have been doing right from 2017 till now is to sensitize the Zango communities with respect to the dangers involved in the commission of crime. What we do is to engage the community stakeholders. For instance, our chiefs, the other Zangos, the imams, the malams. They have been very instrumental in making sure that message and education from us goes straight to the youth. At times, we also engage the youth on the issue of crime prevention, which to a large extent has borne some fruit. There is a program that the Zango Development Fund, together with the Zango Development Secretariat, has been rolling out. In fact, this program was even started as far back as in 2017.
Okay.
Now we're still doing it. Zango for Peace and Development. Zango for Peace for Development is a program that will engage the Zango communities. We started within Accra. We've done same in Kumasi, specifically, in the Ashanti region, and we intend to roll it out to the other regions of the country. We engage stakeholders who matter. Like I said,
with one of the best savings rates in America, banking with Capital One is the easiest decision in the history of decisions. Even easier than choosing Slash to be in your band.
Next up for lead guitar. You're in.
Cool. Yep, even easier than that. And with no fees or minimums on checking and savings accounts, is it even a decision? That's banking reimagined. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com/bank for details. Capital One NA, member FDIC.
Our chiefs, the imams, the youth, the madhajas, and we sensitize and conscientize them about the significance of maintaining peace, security, and order within this country, and the relevance and the significance of ensuring that we don't disturb the peace that we've been enjoying since independence.
Okay.
We also try to let them know that it is very important as Muslims and Christians, we try to live together, to promote religious tolerance, and to make sure that Christians, and it is a collectivity of Christians and Muslims that make Ghana what it is at the moment. And we believe that this sensitization and conscientization has gone a long way in minimizing, to some extent, the rate of crime that you have mentioned.
Okay. Well, but the issue about sectarian discrimination, you've been touching a bit on it, but I think it's a good time we bring in our audience questions, because a number of them, and they will definitely touch on some of the issues that we were hoping to talk about. Then we can delve into the Hajj board issues as well. So yeah, if you're ready, let's get into the first part of questions. And this one says, what's your assessment of the Zangos and the current state? And has the state harnessed the potential of such communities? That's Mavis's question. We have this one from Randy. Says, your government promised to give Nima and adjoining communities a facelift almost 7 years into this administration, and no such thing has been done. Has the government abandoned the plan to modernize Zangos into other inner cities? He's asking. And this one says, do you agree that the Hajj fare of 75,000 is too expensive for the average Ghanaian Muslim to be able to embark on what's a pillar of Islam? That's Mavis's question. Fusaini is asking, what efforts has your outfit put in place to increase the Ghanaian quota to Saudi Arabia so that as many Ghanaians can go for Hajj annually? Okay, and Jay says, does the government still sponsor politicians and other persons to embark on Hajj using state funds? That's Jay. And Marian would give us the last one for this batch. He says, do you agree with the president's decision to scrap the Zango Development Ministry and make it an agency under the office of the president? That's Marian's question. So let's start with, we'll clear the issues about the Zango, then we can get into the Hajj issues. So Alhaji, so let's start with Marian's question. The issue about, this Zango Development Ministry now becoming an agency under the presidency. Marian wants to know your take. Really, what's the thinking process or the thought process behind this? I'm sure you've been finding out. Tell us more.
You see, there's a distinction between the Zango Development Ministry and the Zango Development Fund. The Zango Development Fund was set up by an act of parliament. And I want our audience and listeners to know that the Zango Development Fund is the implementer of projects and programs. Funds allocated from the Ministry of Finance are sent straight into the coffers of the Zango Development Fund. That is the process of implementing projects. That fund, or the Zango Development Fund, has not been scrapped. But what has been structured, or what was structured with the Zango Development Ministry into the Zango Development Secretariat. And at all material time that the Zango Development Ministry was in existence, all that did was to formulate policies, ferry those policies to the Zango Development Fund and ensure the implementation of same. That mandate, even after the military was restructured into the secretariat, has not changed. So the mandate remains the same. So the point that I'm making here is that the Zango Development Fund is the main driver of implementation of projects and programs within Zango. So you realize that all the massive infrastructural development that have been undertaken within Zangos were so undertaken by the Zango Development Fund with the supervision of the ministry and to some extent now the Zango Development Secretariat.
Okay.
So nothing substantial has changed except that the ministry's name and the ministry's structure is what will be changed into the secretariat, but the mandate is the same, and that hasn't in any impacted negatively on programs and projects. That's what we rolled out within our various zones by the Zango Development Fund.
Okay. Well, it's a good time to bring in Mavis's question also. She's basically wanting to find out the current state, and would you say that the state has harnessed the potential of such communities? We've seen some big names come out from Zangos. So the resources, how are we tapping that kind of resource in such communities is her question. Your assessment, and then how you're hoping to harness these potentials.
Okay, the assessment of the Zango now, I give a historical background. It's starting from the pre-colonial colonial era to now. Zango we know today is not the Zango that we used to know at first. Now, I can tell without any hesitation that previously it would be difficult for one to enter a Zango person's house and to find maybe a one graduate, a one university graduate. But now it's very common. Every single household that you enter within any Zango in any part of this country, you find at least one person who is a graduate. So the story is not the same. You also realize that in order to harness the talents of the Zango communities in Ghana, we have built astrotapes. And with me that Zango people are very endowed with sporting qualities, and this fact cannot be disputed in the sense that if you have studied our various national teams in Ghana, some sizable number of Zango youth play and perform so well, taken from the youth team up to the senior team. So the intent for this astroturf is to unearth their talent. And quite apart from that, we have put in place a very strategic measure to ensure that now free, basic education is free, senior high school is free. It is the university education which to some extent is not free. But even there, the president, MPP government has put in place a guarantee-free loan system or scheme where every university student who wants to access this loan can apply without even have to back it with a guarantor.
Okay, I'll take you back to the AstroTurfs, Alhaji, if you can hear me. I'll take you back to the AstroTurfs. Would you say that now, as we speak, we have it in all the various districts or constituencies? What's the figures looking like when it comes to these AstroTurfs? Because I haven't seen one in my area just yet. I'm hoping that we'll see it soon. What's the state like? What's the criteria in getting it for all the constituencies? Give us the figures if you have them.
We have built so far we've built 19 AstroTurfs. We have completed 11. The rest are ongoing.
Okay.
If you go to Fadema, you can find a very nice AstroTurf. If you go to Medina, you can find a very nice AstroTurf. I have the list here. If you go to Akimoda, you have some. If you go to Dudowa, Soutum, Salaga, Bolga, Esikado, they are started.
Okay.
Some selected Zangos in Ghana, but I will not say that they are.
How many are you targeting to build across the country? How many really are you targeting to build across the country?
If we have resources, what it would then mean is that every Zango community in Ghana should have one AstroTurf. Okay. But that cannot be achieved in the two of Highview because we have over 3,000 Zango communities in Ghana. Okay. If we decide to build AstroTurfs within Zangos, that is going to be hugely capital intensive, and which, to all intents and purposes, it is highly impracticable to achieve in the 8-year period of the MPP government or within the shortest possible time. But we know that inshallah 2024 elections and beyond, when we will continue with the construction of the AstroTurf, which we started right from the 2017.
Well, clarify this, Alhaji, for me. Clarify this for me. It appears that the main focus for these Zango communities in terms of things that you want to build, the key priority is these AstroTurfs, because that's what it looks like. Is it the case that all these Zango communities have one need, which is an AstroTurf?
No, we built classroom blocks. Classroom blocks. We built over 100, 6 classroom blocks and 3 classroom blocks.
Okay.
Scattered in Zangus in Ghana, in every region you see a sign of this developmental project of Zango Development Fund and the Zango Development Secretariat. Apart from this, we have built a lot of products. Mechanized boreholes and water system will run into about 100. And then we have built ICT centers. ICT centers, if my memory serves me right, we have about 38 to 40, which we built from 2017 till now. And then we've also built some clinics.
Okay.
Clinic and about 2 or 3 in some selected communities, which
Internet really is not our friend, but we'll try again. If you could wrap up on that. We lost you whilst you're wrapping up on that.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now. You're wrapping up on the clinics, the 2 clinics, which areas you had built it. Elijah, are you there? Okay, so we have other questions also that you've sent in. So we're hoping to tackle the question that came in about the NEMA promise I've been asking earlier, and adjoining communities were promised we're going to give it a facelift, and the concern for Randy is almost 7 years into this administration, no such thing has been done, and whether the government has abandoned the plan to modernize Zangos and other inner cities. Alaji, if you can hear me, we can quickly tackle this one because earlier you were speaking about it. So is it the case that it's been abandoned? How long are we hoping that it will take? We know that it wouldn't take a day or 2 for this to happen, but 7 years is enough for us to see something significant happening, isn't it? Hello, Alaji.
This is a very capital-intensive project, and like in my preliminary remarks, we haven't abandoned because it's a wonderful project. I can say without any hesitation that can potentially be turned into something valuable.
Okay.
And we have actions with some development partners, and they have agreed that if the opportunity
Oh dear, it appears that the internet is not really helping us this evening on the part of Alaji, but we'll try and then see if we can reconnect with Alaji, maybe via phone. Then we can talk about the other concerns that have been raised, especially about Hajj. But this is a probe, and we've been talking about Zangos largely. There have been questions also that have come in by the Hajj, because he's a chairman of the Hajj board as well, and we're getting ready for Hajj in June. And this year is from the 26th of June to the 1st of July in 2023, and that's when Muslims will embark on this particular 5th pillar of Islam. And the concern is about the figures that have been put to it. The fare for Hajj, 75,000 cedis, too expensive, some say, for the average Ghanaian Muslim to be able to embark on this particular important pillar of Islam. What exactly is the Hajj board doing about this situation? Are we going to see the annual frustration of pilgrims who will just have to gather at a point where some of them will be turned away and eventually not be able to partake in this particular pilgrimage in Saudi Arabia? These are more some of the things that we're hoping to address. Alaji joins us via phone this time. Is that the case? So let's wrap. He's still on Zoom. Okay. Well, so Alaji, you're wrapping up on this NEMA situation, and how long it's going to take? Is 7 years not too much for us to have seen something actually happening?
Yes, it's a very complex one, but we are talking with some development partners. And then because you have to look at the land issue. Land, even our ownership with respect to land has to be investigated. But apart from that, you need to even meet, if they are the owners of the land, meet the landowners, negotiate with them or talk over the matter with them, and see if they will agree for such voluminous structure to be pulled down for new ones to be erected in their places. But the fact of the matter is that we have taken some steps in respect of that. But like I said, this is a capital-intensive venture which cannot be achieved within the shortest possible time. So what areas are the issue of education, the issue of skills development, how do the issue of unemployment, how do we deal with the issue of poverty levels within Zambia? Because the point is that if you have a household full of graduates, well employed, they on their own volition and from their own resources can pull down a structure that they live in and erect a very decent one in its place, and even decide to rent some portion of the infrastructure or that structure to prospective tenants. So the issue of poverty, if well tackled, and the issue of illiteracy, if well tackled, a time may even come that we don't even need development partners or development agents to come and pull down our structures within Zambia or Zambos and erect, for lack of a better word, decent structures or infrastructure in their.
What would you say to people who say that this particular promise is an overly ambitious one, if not a dishonest one? Is it a difficult promise that you feel that this government will not be able to achieve anytime soon?
It's not a difficult promise. It's a promise that's achievable. But we can't achieve it now. It has to take some time, but we need to do some levels of consultations. The landowners will need even to investigate titles of the so-called landowners of this area, because some have lived on this land for quite some time, even dating back to the pre-colonial era and coming into the colonial era. So who are the owners? So if it is established that Mr. A or Mr. B is the owner, then there's no problem about it. But the point that I'm trying to make is that it's achievable, but it can't be achieved within the period that people are expecting this objective or vision to be realized. But it is something that is very high on our agenda, but we are not looking at it within this shortest possible time.
So what period should we give? Period should we give? Realistic period to expect that this will happen in this our lifetime.
It will be difficult to give a period unless all the conditions precedent have been fulfilled before we can say without any hesitation that we want to start on this infrastructure development witin a year or within 2 years or within 3 years. But it's something that we haven't forgotten at all. It is on our agenda.
Okay, well, let's deal with the questions about the Hajj issues also, which is very important, key for some of our viewers. So he's asking, this Mark is asking about the 75,000 Hajj fare. I don't know if that has changed. Is that the same fare? Because for some, it's too expensive for the average Ghanaian Muslim to be able to embark on Hajj.
It hasn't changed, and thus fare was informed or is informed by the prevailing global conditions. We remember here that we went on Hajj.
Oh dear.
The rate or the fare last year was 5,800, and the government subsidized $800, leaving a balance of $5,000. If you did a conversion at that time, the dollar rate was around 7.8. But we all agree that this time around, the dollar rate has changed from 7.8 to almost 11 point something. In fact, as at the time that we were fixing this rate, it's around 12. But we decided to hedge the dollar at 11.5 if you convert, you get 75,000 Ghana cedis. And we did it intentionally just to ensure that even if the dollar rate went up, people will still feel comfortable to pay the 75,000 Ghana cedis. I agree wholeheartedly that the 75,000 Ghana cedis is high.
Okay.
But it's high. But now in Saudi Arabia, cost of services that we knew last year have changed. They are not the same. There has been an increase. In fact, a high increase in the cost of services rendered in Saudi Arabia in terms of, let's say, airlines, for instance. But we don't have a national aircraft. We take a Saudi Arabian aircraft. The fare is gone up. Accommodation costs has gone up. Transportation costs has gone up. Even feeding has gone up. The Saudi Arabians now have a Vision 2030. The Vision 2030 is to shift, the intent is to shift or is to change the mentality of people that Saudi Arabians always want to give free gifts to people. But now, that is not what they are doing. Every single service that they give, they will want to charge something on it.
Okay.
If you look at other countries in Africa and some part of the world, you realize that the fare increases have affected all of them. If you go to the Arab countries in Africa, their fares have gone up. If you come down south, the Ivory Coast, Nigeria, Togo, Mauritania, Chad, and the rest, their fares gone up.
Okay.
If you come Africa into the rest of the world, fares, Hajj fares everywhere have gone up. But we agree that the fare is high, but we are pleading with our potential critics that they should make do with the situation. Previously, when things were normal, the fares were reasonably absorbable.
Okay.
But now, change, we cannot, but also fix the Hajj fare at 75,000 Ghana cedis that we have fixed it now.
Okay.
And now, the deadline for the payment of this Hajj fare is the end of this month. But we don't know what is going to happen.
End of April, you mean? End of April, you say?
The end of this month.
Okay.
The end of this is the deadline set for the payment of the Hajj fare. But we are just looking at it cautiously in case at the end of the month we don't get what we expect. If it becomes necessary for us to give maybe a little extension, we'll do that. But as this at the moment, this is the fare that we have fixed for now.
Let's talk about the quota then. I see that last year also it was 6,000. This year also is 6,000. The concern is, are we hoping to increase this particular quota so that many more, those who can afford, can actually join?
Last year it wasn't 6,000. Last year it was 3,000.
Okay.
There was a stop because of the COVID. There was a suspension of the COVID. But when the ravages of the COVID subsided, last year, they gave us 3,000 quota. And now they have reverted the quota to the status quo ante before COVID came in. So now we have 6,000 for this year.
Okay.
So last year was 3,000, and this year
was 6,000.
Last year, this year is 6,000.
Okay, and that is not going to increase. It stays at 6,000.
No, it's not going to be increased,
okay,
because they make sure that every country has a specific quota.
Okay.
So that it could be overpopulation for the Hajj ritual. So, for example, Mauritania has a quota, Nigeria has a quota, The Ivory Coast has a quota. Ghana too, we have a quota of 6,000. And the quota of every country differs from one another. Because the population, Muslim populations are not the same.
So if we have a quota of 6,000, how is it that sometimes some pilgrims are turned away at the last minute? What accounts for that?
It therefore means that those people would have waited, thinking that they can still pay last minute and get the opportunity to travel. But when they come and the quota has been exhausted, it means we can't take more than what the Saudi Arabia authorities have given us. So our limit is 6,000. We can't go beyond it. Unless we try to reduce it to, let's say, 5,000. But the limit, the maximum that they have given us is 6,000. So if you don't pay early, and by the end of the deadline, we have gotten our quota, we can't exceed or go beyond the quota.
Well, and does government still sponsor politicians and other persons to embark on Hajj using state funds? One of the questions Jay is asking.
No, to the best of my knowledge, this year there is not going to be any government sponsorship of politicians. Politicians that I know go to Hajj with their own monies. Since I took over from my father Isikwe, I haven't seen anything or gotten any information with respect to the fact that the government is going to sponsor politicians to embark on Hajj this year. To the best of my knowledge, that information is not available.
Okay, well, so let's go through our next batch of questions. I'm sure most of them we may have touched on, but let's get through it. Halima is asking, what do you say to those who say the Zango Development Fund Secretariat or the Zango Secretariat is a complete waste of scarce public resources when other existing government ministries and agencies can perform these same functions? That's Halima. And we have this one from Max. Has the Zango Development Fund been a success if put in context of what you've been able to do, building astroturfs and similar projects, etc.? That's Max's question. And this one from Malik says, will the Zango Development Fund consider directly funding businesses or persons who live in such communities as well as increasing quotas for scholarships? Malik is asking. And Anna says, what would you say is the state of Zango communities then and now, with emphasis on what the ZDF has done in terms of human and structural development? Do the people of Zango even know of this fund? How accessible is this fund? Anna is asking. And then we have another one, a final one from Abu, who says, which people is the fund supporting and what is the criteria? What happened to Zango Development and Inner City, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so that's Abu. Maybe we'll tackle that one. The second part of Abu's question has been answered in terms of the Zango Development and Inner City, but he's asking about which people in the criteria that the fund supports, and maybe we can talk about it. There was one also from Anas that's asking about how accessible is the fund, and do people in the Zango communities even know about this particular fund? So criteria, how accessible it is, and whether people know about it.
The criteria are not too difficult to find or to meet. Just as called out the Zango Development Fund Act, you need to be a Zango person or live in Zango, and you also have to apply, and you have to be in need, maybe brilliant, but daily student. You apply to the Zango Development Fund, the board will meet, assess your application, and determine whether you are qualified to access the fund. So these are the criteria. It's not too difficult. And in terms of the
just on the criteria, maybe some assurances that you can give. We've seen such, scholarships and such funds put in place, but it turns out that those who are actually not in need are the ones that get it. We can talk about the cocoa scholarships. At least most people know that farmers, the children of farmers, actually do not have access to this. Is it the case that you have to know someone who knows someone before you can actually have it if you are really in need of this?
You don't have to know anybody. But the criteria are there, and we serve people within Zangos. We don't serve people from any other place. So if you apply, the board will even give your application to a committee. There's a committee in place that deals with that. And after the committee has finished its work, the committee will then report to the board whether the person is qualified or not based on certain criteria. When that criteria have been met, then the board will approve your application and then allow you to access the fund. It comes in the form of a check. A check which will be paid on. Instead that you have an account into which the check will be paid, then the check is paid into account. Then when it matures, then you go and cash and then go and pay. At times too, we can pay the money directly to the institution. That if it is a school, in this particular case a university, we can pay directly into the account of the school, just to ensure that the money that the person is taking is not going waste, but the money is going into what the money is meant for. And with respect to whether people know about
the fund,
yes, I would look at it from 2 or 3 angles. One is the office accessibility. We have 2 offices. One is the Zongo Development Fund, which is at Belenke, and the other is the Zongo Development Secretariat, which sits within the premises of the Zongo of the Osu Castle, where I am stationed. And then the issue, the second point has to do with whether if you apply, you can get you can have the money. That is resource availability. Yes. Yeah. Once available and you apply, there is no bias, there is no discrimination. You are likely to get. But what we do is to give financial support. It's not scholarship like the way we describe scholarship with respect to the scholarship secretariat, and then get fund. So anything have a problem with respect to maybe a person not being able to pay for his fees, and the money the person is asking for is beyond our ability. We talk to Get Fund, we talk to the scholarship secretariat, and on many occasions that we have done that, we were able to secure funds for this particular people. And at times too, we talk to NGOs. We are in cooperation with a number of NGOs. These NGOs give us projects. At times too, they execute some of our programs for us. They give scholarships to some Zongo people. As I'm talking now, we have been given 20 scholarship slots for some Zongo people sent outside and to be trained in science-related courses. And because of scarcity of funds or resources, we are trying to prioritize areas that we think that we should be looking at, and then be pushing students financial. For instance, if anybody applies and the person course is related to any of the STEM courses, like the science, technology, mathematics, etc., and this time around law, we make sure that we will bear full financial responsibility of such a course. We all know the difficulty involved in getting access to the law school. So should a person from Zongo get admission into the law school and the person is not able to go to the law school because of lack of funds, and he comes and money, we will take care of him right from the beginning to the end. And the same thing applies to medicine, engineering, the pharmacy. So we are not able to look at all the courses, but we have selected some
of the courses.
Take care fully and without pushing the person somewhere along the line, then we leave the person in the ledge. But
I'm concerned about the budgetary allocation. I don't know if I'm correct, but from the data that I'm seeing, in 2022 you had about 154 million, and this year I'm seeing 26 million. Is that even adequate for you to execute all the things that you're talking about?
26 million is money that has been earmarked for some programs projects. But we have some projects, capital-intensive projects that we intend to back up upon, which is the construction of Islamic senior high schools. And discussions are advanced with the minister. And that money, to the best of my knowledge, has not been captured in that budget, because the total amount for the construction of 3 Islamic senior high schools that I'm talking about is far beyond the 26 million.
Okay. All right. Well, we are really running out of time at this point, and would have to be wrapping up, Alhaji. Well, but just before I let you off, I'm sure all is set for this year's Hajj, and we'll get to interact more on it. But I know that you've been in Parliament for quite some time. Many people that saw the flyer today talked about how you've been missed in Parliament. And since we're in an era of hoping to start, primaries amongst others, are we seeing you back in Parliament anytime soon?
Anytime that they ask me this question, it's very difficult for me to answer. All that I say is that when the time is due, God will show the way. But for now, I'm unable to say whether I will contest or will not contest. Because as a politician, it's not advisable to say no, even if you mean no, and it's not advisable to also say yes, even if you mean yes. So for now, I want to exercise a bit of patience and see how things go on when the time is due for our party to ask interested politicians or prospective members of the parliament to apply to be elected.
But do you miss the House though? Do you miss the House? Do you miss Parliament?
Obviously, once I was just some time ago, and then I was actively involved in the passage of bills into laws. Our friends there, whatever it is, and I have a lot of passion for making laws. Whatever it is, you miss your friends, you miss passage of laws, and then you miss some related matters that went on whilst up.
Okay, we're grateful. Thank you so much for joining us. Alhaji Ben Abdallah Banda is the Presidential Coordinator, Zango and Inner City Development Chairman, Ghana Hajj Board as well. I am Memefa Pao. That's all for tonight's edition of The Probe. For our radio audience, A Walk with Jesus is up next. Please do stay. Once again, Eid Mubarak, Eid al-Fitr to all of you. Have a good evening.